for Wade after that. Member for Light.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Mr Deputy Speaker, I rise in support of this motion and commend the member for Hammond for bringing it to our attention, and certainly one worthy of support of this House. Mr Deputy Speaker, the work undertaken by the various ex-service organisations is to be highly commended, and it's important that we do acknowledge the work they do. As the member for Wright quite rightly said, we often don't understand or appreciate as a general community that most of this work is actually performed by volunteers under very difficult situations, very difficult circumstances. Often there's lack of resources, often they're dealing with very complex matters in terms of the law, but not in complex matters at all, but also complex matters with the well-being of the veteran they're dealing with. But they do it. They do it really well. And there is a whole range of return service organisations which provide a range of different services for different needs. Mr Speaker, it's also true that if it wasn't for these organisations, and I have a few in my own electorate, like the local RSL club, our veterans certainly would be for the poorer and their families. The support they provide often is not only to the veteran themselves, but also their families and children. Mr Speaker, Mr Deputy Speaker, one of the things which we seemed not able as a society yet to come to terms with is the sort of support which our veterans need. And I say that because, as the member for Wright has indicated and other speakers indicated, the number of ex-defence personnel or veterans who take their own lives is disproportionately higher than the general population. And that needs to be addressed. That needs to be addressed. And at this point, I'd like to acknowledge the wonderful work performed, undertaken, I should say, by Julianne Finney, other mothers and dads around this country to advocate for a Royal Commission, so we fully understand what is behind this appalling rate of suicide amongst our veterans. Mr Speaker, it is sad that I have to stand here and say that these families have had to work tirelessly and very hard to get this sort of inquiry up. It seems to be a no-brainer that we should be doing this work to look into the lives of our veterans to see what is the causes of this horrendous suicide rate amongst our veterans. As the member for Hammond quite rightly said, our veterans often are in high stress zones for long periods of time, and I don't think those of us who have not served can really understand that. That sort of constant stress you're under has huge impacts on the mental health of our serving personnel, and particularly when they become ex-serving personnel, because the transition, we don't seem to do that well. We don't seem to be able to provide the support to the veterans and their families that when they transition from military life or defence life to civilian life, and that sadly the results are in the high rate of suicide. I can recall one ex-serviceman who mentioned to me, he says, we do at least, in his day, we do 6 weeks of training when we go in, and we do 6 hours of work when they exit. And clearly that shows that we don't do enough work with those people, with those personnel when they transition. And as I said, the results are there for us to see. Mr Speaker, that one of the things which I think is very important as a society we do is to show our support for our veterans. And one of those things we do that through, apart from day-to-day support and practical support, is to commemorate their service. And it was sad, again, that in my own town of Gawler this year, that there wasn't a general Anzac Day dawn service, a traditional Anzac Day service, where we get anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000 people attend. The lack of support given to the local RSL was sad, and I think as a community, I think governments need to step up in this area of any political persuasion at any level, need to step up and do much better. As the member has quite rightly pointed out, most of these people, if not all of them, are volunteers. Most of our returned servicemen in the RSL are getting old in age, often some of them having their own issues to deal with, and given all those circumstances, they still do a marvellous job. They do a marvellous job in supporting each other through peer support. But they do need our support as a community. I have no difficulty in seeing my taxes go supporting the work they perform, nor my taxes supporting commemorative services, which actually just gives us a chance as a community to come together and show our support. I would like to put on the record, though, the City of Playford. The City of Playford do a wonderful job in supporting and having commemorative services. They have both a vigil service and a dawn service and outdoor service. The City puts in quite a few resources to make those events happen, and it is great to see the City doing that. I'm not sure that's true of other councils in my region, and certainly I'll be discussing that with them to ensure that next year and the years after that we actually provide the appropriate support for these commemorative services. One of the things I'd like also touch upon is sometimes for those of us who don't move around a lot, by that I mean move house a lot in terms from state to state or from country to country, understand that the defence families, the pressure defence families are under, and we don't often understand perhaps the impact on the children, on the partners of actually continuously moving, and also that where, like myself, I've lived in my community for many more years than I want to say publicly. But having moved, and I'm fortunate. I know my community. I've lived there. I have childhood friends from school days, etc. Defence a long time ago. Defence. I can actually say my school doesn't exist anymore. So when I am. But I'm actually much better shape than some people the other across the table there too. So the ticker's going well. I'm still here. I'm still a candidate next election as well. Don't worry, I'll be there to make sure that we win government next time. Mr. Speaker, I think I've got a better chance than you have, mate. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that the families kids who grow up and their lives are dislocated a number of times have their own issues. And I'm not sure that as a society we sometimes glamorise that life, but certainly for some of the young people I've met in more recent times have actually made it very clear that the constant dislocation has an impact on them because they don't have those childhood friends, they don't have those connections to community, and it does actually weigh heavily on them, and because they lack those sort of community networks, which we all find very valuable in the communities we live. We find that social interaction very important. Interestingly, that one of the students made a comment to me recently that they're at school and often they're excluded from discussions because they haven't been in that community a long time. So they're talking about things which they're not party to. And that makes them feel excluded, and that's a challenge. So we need to understand that. I know if you're a defence personnel, you sign up, you make those sort of choices. But equally, we need to understand the impact. If we do want people to sign up, want people to participate in our armed services, we need to make sure that we do support the families. Mr. Speaker, as I said, Mr. Deputy Speaker, as I said, this motion is worthy of our support, and again, I thank the member for Hammond bringing it to us. But we also need to remember that we need to support those organisations that support our veterans, and I think we can do that better.
Member for Waite.